girls who nerdy, but when they dance, they be saying, ow.
Hey y'all, welcome back to my podcast. Shout out to my blurds. It is I, Ty, your head blurred in charge or HBIC, and I'm glad to have you all here for this amazing episode because y'all, in case you couldn't tell, for those of you who are watching this on my YouTube channel, Chaotic Goodie-Good, we're going to be talking about sinners today. I'm going to be nerding out over sinners, so please prepare yourselves. It is just that good. I have personally seen it in theaters 4 times. And I do believe it'll be available on streaming come June 3rd. And I already looked it up. The DVD will be available on December 31st. Because I gotta have all the special content that comes on the DVDs. Give me all the cutscenes, the bloopers, the director's commentary, Ryan Coogler, the featurettes. Give it to me. But in the meantime, I just want to talk about this movie. Sinners is a 2025 release from the mind, the brilliant, nerdy mind, genius of a mind of Ryan Coogler, director of Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Fruitvale Station, Creed, hello. It is an original script that is in part period piece, part musical, part supernatural horror, and it's amazing. It's amazing. If you have not seen it, what in the heliante are you doing? It's still in theaters, as far as I know. Please go see it. Please do yourself a favor. Please spend the coin and go take in this masterpiece. Also, as we go on into this episode, please know that there will be spoilers, hella spoilers. I'm not holding back. I'm not holding your hand. Go see the movie and then come back and watch or listen to this podcast episode because I am going to be telling it all. The movie stars Michael B. Jordan playing dual roles: Wunmi Musaku, Haley Steinfeld, Jack O'Connell, Omar Miller, Jamie Lawson, the incomparable Delroy Lindo, and introducing in his first movie role ever, Miles Caton as Sammy. The basic story is about Sammy Moore, the son of a preacher, who warns him about sin and the ways of the world. But Sammy is a young 19-ish, 20-ish young person who has been dutiful to his parents and is up before dawn to complete his chores so that he can have a fun night, a fun day, visiting with his cousins, Stack and Smoke, who have been out of their area for 7 years. He is a sharecropper in 1932 Mississippi, and he is also someone who is gifted in the blues. He loves the blues. He has a guitar that was gifted to him from his cousins, and he wants to explore that side of him. His older cousins, twins, Smoke or Elijah and Stack, Elias, are back in town after being away for 7 years, having fought in World War I and running around with Al Capone in Chicago. They are well known and feared in town and are back with the money and the goods that they procured to open a juke joint called Club Juke in their hometown. So they round up all the people that they need to make the club a success. But before they do all that, they have to purchase the space from Hogwood, a clearly racist white man who lies about the Klan still being active and who refers to Smoke and Stack, who are likely between the ages of 32 to 35, as boys. The twins, played to perfection by Michael Bakari Jordan, move like a well oiled machine as Stack rolls cigarettes for Smoke, who has tremors likely from the war and other life experiences prior to the war, and Smoke, who can quickly act when there is a threat to keep himself and the ones he loves safe. Over the course of the day, we meet Annie, Smoke's love interest and the mother of his child, and wise beyond her years, Mary, Stack's married love interest, who is 1/8 Black heritage in her family. Perlene, a married singer who encounters Sammy at the train station and becomes his love interest, and Delta Slim, a well known blues player in the Delta who mentors Sammy. We meet Bo and Grace Chow, who are acquainted with the twins and agree to assist them in the opening of Club Juke, and Omar Miller, a sharecropper who is tasked with being the muscle to watch the door. Everyone's having a good night, being free, celebrating, playing music, eating good food, enjoying one another until they are joined by some unwanted guests. Vampire Remick, played by Jack O'Connell, and his recruits, as Remick is drawn to Sammy and Sammy's voice and Sammy's ability to conjure ancestors from the past and a lineage from the future. And so Remick wants to procure that talent and recruit Sammy onto into his interests, so to speak. Now that we got the basic information out the way, I just want to speak openly and freely about my feelings about the movie. The themes, the characters, the actors, the brilliant, nerdy mind of Ryan Coogler, and whatever else comes to mind. Okay, is that okay with y'all? Cool, cool. All right. So, as I've mentioned earlier, I saw this movie in theater 4 times. It would have been a fifth time. Why didn't I go last week? I think I was just really tired. And then I saw Final Destination, Bloodlines, and like a part of me felt like I was cheating on Sinners. So I don't know. But I did go see it 4 times. The first time I saw it, I was blown away. That showing actually had captions on the screen, which I really appreciated because I am somebody who, I'm sorry, I need captions. I need them. So I was happy to have that because then I was able to understand some of the things that could have possibly been missed upon a first showing or a first viewing of the movie, especially because a lot of the characters who are from Clarksdale, Mississippi, if you are not familiar, you may miss some things that they're saying because you don't get it upon first hearing because of the accents. So I appreciated having captions. Then I believe I saw it that following Monday in theaters, of course, but I saw it in IMAX. So I did see it in IMAX, not the 70 millimeter IMAX, which is like the way I guess it's supposed to be viewed, but in just IMAX theaters, which they used IMAX cameras when they were filming the movie. And so the experience was very different. Seeing it on the screen was very different that time around. And the theater I went to had the popcorn bucket and drink combo, which the other theater that I went to did not have those. And let me tell y'all, so you get this cup, right? This cup that I'm holding, but the popcorn bucket, they have either blue or red. I had such a hard time deciding because that red and black together looks so dope. And the red, if you've seen the movie or even if you've seen previews, uh, Stack, the twin who is a little bit more free spirited, smiles more, a little bit more laid back, he wears red accents. Smoke, who is a little bit more reserved, who's a little bit more stoic, he wears the blue. So for me, thinking about Smoke and Stack, thinking about their individual, even though they are twins, they have individual journeys in this movie. And I resonated more with Smoke. And quite honestly, I liked his ending a little bit better than Stack's. And so that's why I got the blue bucket. And so saw it that time. Then I saw it that following Sunday. Like I love this movie so much. So I saw it that following Sunday in, of course, back in theaters. And then the last time I saw it was actually on Mother's Day. So that was my Mother's Day gift to myself, was just to take myself to the movies because I love the movies. Movies is part of my self care. for the most part, like the theaters were fairly full. I know the last time I saw it, on Mother's Day was a pretty full show. The time before that was absolutely full. Like usually when people pick their seats, they'll pick spaces. Like no, we were all just next to each other. There were no gaps. So everybody was there to see it. And it's that good. I've seen a lot of people comment and say, "What did Ryan Coogler, what kind of spell did he put in this movie to get people to want to see it over and over and over again?" And I wish I knew too, because you leave the theater after experiencing this movie and experiencing this story. And I don't know about anybody else, but my first thought is, when can I come back and see it again? Every time I saw it, it literally was like, when can I come back? When can I afford to come back and see it again? Let's get into these characters and the story and the themes. Y'all, I know that there's going to be something I miss. Oh, I hate it. I hate it. But I'm going to try to cover as much as I can, because the thing is, it's so layered. It's so layered. And from all the press junkets that I've seen and interviews, I just love how excited Ryan Coogler is when he talks about the movie, not just the characters, not just the themes, but like the intricate details that a writer director would think of. And just seeing him get giddy about talking about this. This is an original movie. Um, and when I say that, I mean these days a lot of things are prequels, requels, re-releases, reboots. It's all based off of some kind of source material. So even I mentioned Final Destination Bloodlines. Of course, Final Destination was already a franchise prior to the one that just came out. Or even if you look at Ryan Coogler's catalog, Black Panther is based on the character from the Marvel comic books. Creed, that is a spin-off of the Rocky movies, you know? So with this is something that came from his mind. He sat down and he's like, okay, this is the character, this is what they're about, this is the story, this is how this is gonna come in. And he worked with a friend of his, Ludwig Göransson. Ludwig and Ryan Coogler went to college together, and I believe they were college roommates. And Ludwig, if you don't know who Ludwig is, y'all better educate yourself, because you're uncultured if you don't know who he is. He is an amazing composer. He has worked a lot with my favorite artist, Childish Gambino, and he's also done the music on this movie. And it's so good. Like, there's a scene where Annie, who is Smoke's love interest, she is lighting a match and she strikes it 3 times. And as she strikes it, you hear the music go ding, ding, ding as she's striking the match. And it's just so, there's something so like satisfying about that and how it lines up. And only an amazing composer can bring that uh that elevation to an already amazing story. So I was gonna start with Smoke and Stack and Michael B. Jordan, but honestly, I want to start and end with Sammy, because even though yes, we know Michael B. Jordan, we know Michael Bakari Jordan, we know Michael Bay Jordan. Okay, we know him. But who is this unknown? So Miles Caton is a young man who is essentially a prodigy. He's just this amazingly gifted artist. He's touring with her, and he also comes from a family of singers. I mentioned in my TikTok how his aunt is the little girl who sings the lullaby of Broadway at the end of Life with Mikey from the 90s, Michael J. Fox. Make sure y'all look that up. It's such a good movie. I love that scene. But he was touring with her, And her, the artist, her, is who encouraged him to audition for this part of Sammy. Sammy Moore, as I mentioned in the intro, is a young man, maybe in his late teens, early 20s, and he's a sharecropper. He was up before dawn so that he could make his quota, be done with his work for the day, because he knew his cousins was going to be in town. I'm sure they probably sent him a letter or something to let him know that they were coming back in town. They were going to scoop him up. They probably knew that he was a gifted musician because they gifted him with a guitar. So if you think about that, so in the movie, Smoke and Stack have been gone from their hometown for 7 years. So if Sammy's like 20 years old, 7 years ago, he would have been like 13. They probably, as his older cousins, maybe heard him singing around the house or asking them questions or just being really interested in music, and they gave him the guitar, right? He finishes his job. He's, playing around with his mom, and he goes to look for his guitar. And mind you, he's up. He's up before everybody else. As he's leaving the plantation from doing all his work and meeting his quota, everybody else is just now arriving. He's ready for the day. He goes to look for his guitar, which he hides under the floorboards under his bed. He has to hide his gift. And it's gone. And guess who has it? His father. His father is a preacher. And before I even get into that, in the very beginning of the movie, you hear a voiceover. I believe it's Annie. And she's talking about people who have been able to tap into ancestry through music and in African culture. I think it's Yoruba. I'm Don't take me to heart. I could be wrong. Like I said, I'm just speaking off the dome. I don't have a bunch of research here. I just have what I know. And she says the griot. And then she also says that there are evil or bad people who want to take those gifts. And so you see Sammy driving to the plantation. This is like the prologue of the movie. You see him coming to the plantation. It's the next day, 1932, October. He's driving up to this small church house. He is toe up from the flow up. Okay. Like, he's dirty. His clothes are betattered. He's got a gnarly scar, like claws across his face. And he's limping. And he's holding the neck of his guitar. Church doors open. The little choir of children is singing This Little Light of Mine. And as the doors open, everybody is in shock and awe, like, and you hear his mother yell out to him, Sammy! And in the beginning of the movie, that's where you get those jump scares, because it flashes to some of the things in the, like I said, the music, the way that Ludwig does the music. Not only does it flash to those scenes, but the music also elicits that jump scare reaction. And his dad is calling him to the front of the church. His dad keeps his mom from comforting him. And his dad calls him to the front of the church. And he's, encouraging Sammy to drop the guitar. So that was the beginning scene before we see anything else. So now cut back to Sammy goes to the church house because he's like, who else could have taken my shit but my dad? Because when our parents don't want us to do things, or they want to, hinder us in some way, or they feel like they're protecting us from something, what do? They take away or lock away those things that they think are going to make us stray. So Sammy's father hid his guitar. He brought it into the church house and set it up against the communion table. Now, if you are familiar with church, especially if you're familiar with Black church, most of those communion tables look the same. They're a brown long table, and the words on the front say "In remembrance of me." Okay. And so that's where Sammy's guitar is situated, and the dad is saying, "Hey, I want you to lead the choir in church tomorrow, and I want you to read this scripture." And he has the scripture open for Sammy to read, and the scripture is about temptation. God will not tempt you beyond what you could handle. He would give you a way out. Sammy knows the scripture. Sammy knows the Bible. Sammy is the son of a preacher. He knows these things. So he essentially, like, he patronizes his dad, like, okay, like, yeah, I'll read this. Look, I don't even need to read this. I can close the book. I know the scripture. But my quota's done. I'm a grown ass man. My cousins are coming to scoop me up. There's my guitar. I'll see you at church tomorrow. Dad is all, oh, the world is gonna get you and the devil's after you, Sammy, and all right, fine. Noted. I'll see you tomorrow at church, Dad. Because who comes pulling up? Sammy's fine ass cousins, stacking smoke. Smoke, I think, who was driving, very serious looking man, has got on a little blue chapeau, and Stack, who's got on the brimmed red hat and he's smiling. He's got the fronts, and we'll get him back in one piece, Uncle Jed. And Sammy gets in the car and he's excited to see his cousins. He's riding along like it's just that thing, that familial thing. And I want to talk about that a little bit too. Of There's a theme of family within this movie, not just between the brothers, but even Sammy's relationship with Stack and Smoke individually as his older cousins. Stack, being the more laid back one, is the one that's gonna kind of encourage him, or who's gonna think stuff is like funny, or who's gonna put him on and give him some advice. Smoke is the one that's like giving him the tough love. You may not like what I'm saying, but what I'm saying because I love your stupid ass and I need you to listen. Um, so it's interesting to see how he relates to both of them. But what's more interesting to me is how they relate to each other. So they're twins, and I also find it really cool that Ryan Coogler had twin consultants on the film, and I think these were people that he knew. So I love that. He could have easily got any set of twins. He's like, no, if I'm gonna bring in twins, I'm gonna bring in twins that I know and put them on to this project so that they can be consultants. And I think that's cool. And I think in an interview he did mention he has twins within his family. I do as well. I have cousins who are twins on my dad's side. I have twin nephews from my sister on my mom's side, and they are very much smokestack coded. One is very stoic, very kind of serious, a little bit more reserved, and the other one is definitely more outgoing, more slick at the mouth. So, yes, when we first see Stack and Smoke, we see them waiting, right? He's laid up, right? He's laid back on the car and he's rolling a cigarette. Smoke is checking the time, and what we notice when he checks the time is he has a little bit of a tremor. One can infer that he picked up that tremor from being in the war, going through things in life, and so it's hard for him to keep his hands steady. But also, what I find interesting about Smoke is that when it comes to quick draw, pulling out that gun real quick, acting, ain't no tremors, ain't no hesitation. It's just he's moving. Love that detail. But Stacks rolls his cigarettes for him. I don't even think we see Stack. Do we see Stack smoke in the movie? He doesn't. I don't. He rolls them for his brother, and we find out that they're waiting for this guy named Hogwood to come because He owns this milling factory that they want to purchase so that they can open their own juke joint. Juke joints were a huge deal during that time. The first time I ever, heard of a juke joint was, of course, Color Purple. And it's just, black people getting together, they drinking, they having fun, they dancing, they hooking up, might be a fight or two breaking out. Okay. Musicians are coming together, singers are coming together to perform. It's just that's what our people did for fun and entertainment in those times. 1932 South. We'll get to that. In comes Hogwood. His ass is late, and he sees the twins, and he's, "You boys twins? Nah, we cousins." 'Cause Stack is a smart ass. And Hogwood is confused on what y'all need this for. What y'all? None of your damn business. You want this money or not? We ain't no boys here. Just grown men with grown men money. And you see, Smoke was with the smoke, right? Smoke had his hand on that piece. Is there a problem? And Stack was like, "Here's our bag of money. Like, come on." Gives him the bag of money. Fine. Stack wants to still open the juke joint. Smoke is like, he kind of held up our time. We're behind schedule. Stack is like, nah. So this is fast forward back to when we see them with Sammy. And they take Sammy to where they hid their other truck that had all their goods, all the stuff that they kind of took when they were in Chicago, running around with Al Capone, where they probably procured a lot of money and a lot of goods. So they had Irish beer and Italian wine. And, Smoke talks about maybe we should wait a week because he put us behind schedule. And Stack's like, no, we got to act on it right now. Like, we've been out of town for a while. People are going to want to come and just chill out. Fine. For us, by us. I like how they got the FUBU in there. But as they're, unpacking all the stuff and going through everything, there's a snake, a rattlesnake in the back. That's another jump scare. It's like, shh, rattlesnake. Sammy's a little taken aback, but the twins are not phased. They work like a well oiled machine. We don't really see Stack kill or hurt anybody the entire movie. He's more so cunning with his words. Smoke is more so about the action. So Stack throws a weapon to Smoke, and Smoke gets the rattlesnake. They separate. Smoke is going to take the big truck into town so that he can get the people he needs, and then Stack is going to go across town and get the people he needs. He's going to take Sammy with him. Sammy and Stack have a playful little rapport. They shadow boxing, and Smoke is like, "Nah, you going to do what you told." Smoke is very much more fatherly, and Smoke is the older twin, so he's also used to being fatherly to Stack. And we'll find out within the film, as the film goes on, that Smoke is a father. I also find it interesting. It's a little detail that I really like, is even the ways that the brothers get in and out of the car. Smoke opens the door and gets out the car. Stack jumps over the door. And you see Sammy early on jumps over the door too. He wants to be like Stack. If I'm not mistaken, when he drives back home the following morning after everything took place, he opens the door like Smoke. I think part of that had to do too because he was messed up and he broke his ankle or something, so he probably couldn't have jumped out of that door if he wanted to. Anyway, Sammy goes with Stack. Smoke goes into town. Smoke goes into town. He encounters a little girl. He teaches her about negotiation. I love his interaction with this young girl. Um, and you see that fatherly part of him. And I love that. Like, my dad taught me a lot, taught me how to fight. He taught me about advocating for myself. about negotiations, all of that. So I really appreciated that detail. So the reason he was talking to the little girl and negotiating with her is so that she could watch the truck and he would pay her for every minute he was gone because he's got good stuff in there. He don't want anybody going through his stuff. He goes in to talk to Bo. Bo is a Chinese man. I feel like they maybe grew up together or grew up knowing each other. It's possible that Bo's father probably ran that store. And then when Bo came of age, he ran the store with his family. And Bo and his wife, Grace, they have a daughter named Lisa. And they also have another store on the opposite side of the street. Now, mind you, we are in Jim Crow South. It's 1932 Mississippi. You have a store that takes the black customers, and then you have a store that takes the white customers. The mom seems to be more so in the store, Grace in the store with the white customers, and Bo handles the store with the black customers. And he needs the sign, he needs some food, he needs some things for the juke joint. He goes outside because the little girl has beat the horn. Two men have tried to break into his truck to steal some of the goods, and Smoke shoots one in the butt and one in the kneecap because he can't have nobody going back saying that they almost robbed the twins because they have a reputation. Even when he first talks to the little girl and he asks her, "Do you know who the Smokestack twins are?" She's like, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, I'm Smoke." And she instantly tenses up and moves back from him. And he's like, "No, don't be scared." So the reputation of them in town has preceded them. And you'll find out the reputation wasn't necessarily because of them or anything bad that they did, it was because of their father. So Bo and Grace, the Chows, agree to help Smoke. Then we see Stack cross town. He is giving Sammy some advice because Sammy is a young man. He's coming of age. And if he hasn't already, he's probably curious about having sex. I guess in that day, they called the vulva a coos, which is a word I'm going to start using. And so Stack is teaching him about, how to pleasure coos. And he's giving very good advice, I must say, especially for 1932. That advice comes into play a little later. So they're driving, and Sammy's asking about what happened to their father. I'm sure he's heard stories, or maybe he's overheard his parents talk about it, but he doesn't know. He just knows that his uncle Sam is Smoke and Stack's father is dead. Stack explains that the dad would beat them, but he mostly would beat Stack. We find out that when Stack was being born, Stack is the younger twin, he got stuck coming out of the mother. And I believe it's implied that the mother died during childbirth. Dad likely blamed Stack. So Stack got the beatings the worst as they were kids coming up. And then plus Stack is a kid that probably like just always just played too much. And so dad probably didn't like that and took a lot of his frustration, anger out on Stack. Smoke, who loves his brother, who is fatherly to his brother, had enough, and Smoke killed their father. Stack seems to have some forgiveness for the dad, whereas Smoke kind of had to handle the heavy lifting. The dad had beat Stack so hard that Stack had passed out, and by the time he woke up, Smoke was burying the dad's body. Sammy and Smoke are talking about Sammy's guitar. Sammy loves that guitar. It's a beautiful guitar. Stack tells him it's a musician by the name of Charlie Patton's guitar. And that made Sammy even more excited about it. So Stack wants to hear him play. Sammy starts singing, and I found out that Miles Caton had taught himself once he got the role. He taught himself how to play guitar. He was self taught. He practiced every day, hours at a time, every day. So that's him playing. And of course, that's him singing. He has such a very unique voice. You never would think that that kind of voice, even his speaking voice, because he's young. Miles Caton in real life, I believe, is like 20 years old. You would never think that that voice, that big booming voice, would come out of that young man. He sings a song, traveling. I don't know why the hell I'm here. And I love Stack's reaction to hearing his cousin really sing for the first time. He was taken aback. He was excited. He was like, hold up. And then he's like, oh, we gonna make a lot of money. we gonna capitalize off your gift, little cousin. So they get on their way and they go to obtain an old musician by the name of Delta Slim, played by Delroy Lindo, who I love. I absolutely love. He is a powerhouse of an actor. I loved him in This Christmas because that's my favorite Christmas film. I love him in that. I loved him in The Five Bloods. He was excellent in that movie. And is no different here. Absolutely excellent. He plays Delta Slim. Delta Slim is an older gentleman, maybe around his 70s, mid to late 70s. So if you're doing the math, Delta Slim was more than likely born into slavery. His parents were enslaved, and he was born into slavery, probably born right before the Emancipation Proclamation or Juneteenth, probably born somewhere between that time. So he's an older gentleman. He's at the train station. Even the train station, you see, there's a separation between the whites and the blacks at the train station. Delta Slim's playing his harmonica. Sammy's a fan. He knows who Delta Slim is. So he's excited to behold him. Stack leaves a generous donation in his hat or whatever he had to collect his money. And he looks up and he sees that it's Stack. He knows who Stack is. He knows who the Smokestack twins are. He probably knew their father, probably knew their grandfather, because Delta Slim is an older gentleman. He's also a drunkard. And a lot of that drinking, more than likely, is a way for him to cope. I could imagine living during that time, growing up during that time, seeing all the things you see with the Klan running rampant, with coming off of the heels of slavery, lynching, incarceration. He probably drinks as a way to cope, as a way to escape, as a way to not have to think about all that stuff. So Stack is trying to get him to come play at the juke, right? Delta's like, listen, I mean, you might be paying $20 tonight, but I go to this other place. They pay me $10 a night. They give me all the liquor I could want. They'll probably be around 10 more years. They'll be around long after I'm gone. So basically, the other place is a sure thing. I never heard of Yo Juke. But Stack brings out that Irish beer, and from there they had Delta Slim. And I love the scene where Delta Slim and Sammy are like playing in the little town square, and Stack is like, yeah, you can come see my cousin and Delta Slim, and they're playing and blah blah blah, and you see the black folk kind of gathered around, and we see a young lady played by Jamie Lawson. Her name is Perlene, and she's got her sights set on Sammy. Now, Perlene, I was trying to think of how old she might be, because she is a married woman. She looks to be in her mid to late 20s, so like between 24 to 27 years old. So not that much older than Sammy, but because she's married, because she's already out here singing and performing, she is living a very different life from him. He still lives with his parents. This is his first time really being out. So they engage with each other. They have a cute little back and forth, flirtatious little thing going on. She saunters off, and Sammy notices a seemingly white woman like looking in their direction. And it's like, oh shit. Yeah, oh shit. Yeah, oh shit. In those days, you can't just be mingling with white women. As a black man, that'll get your ass killed. That'll get your ass lynched. That'll get your ass beat in the street. Okay? So Sammy goes to alert Stack. Stack knows immediately who that is. That's Mary. Mary grew up with Stack and Smoke because her mother, um, I may have this wrong, but from what I understand from how they phrased it in the movie, her mother was basically the one who delivered them, or she nursed them, because their mother passed on when they were infants, likely in childbirth. And so Mary's mother kind of stepped in to take care of Smoke and Stack, and she had just passed away. Mary was coming back from her mother's funeral. Mary's mother is a fourth black. So Mary's grandfather was half black. So Mary has black in her lineage, but she is a white woman. I don't even think she's passing. Your grandfather was half black, who likely linked up with a white woman to have your mother, who likely linked up with a white man to have you. So it's in the lineage, but to say she's passing would be a little bit of a reach, in my opinion. And apparently, the actress who plays her, Haley Steinfeld, um, she also has similar heritage. So I appreciated that touch of that also being kind of her story, similar to Mary's. But Stack is kind of talking around her. He's not really looking at her. He's Because the thing is, he could get in trouble. He could get hurt. He could get grabbed by a mob of white men and lynched. And also, conversely, for Mary, if anybody were to find out that she has black heritage, she could get killed as well, or beat up, or anything. And so Stack basically was like, listen, I just want to keep you safe. You with your husband. She's got a white husband. So she's very slick at the mouth. That's why her and Stack were just like a good match, because they're both very slick at the mouth. And he's like, I told you to stay away from me, and she's like, yeah, but then you stuck your tongue in my coos, and there's that word again. So they have an exchange. He basically tells her to get the hell on, go back to Arkansas. I think she was in Arkansas. Go back to her husband. She tells him to go to hell, and he's like, I will save you a place right next to me. Which, another thing I really like about this movie is a lot of things that are said and done within the movie kind of come full circle. So I mentioned how we see Sammy more so kind of gravitates and emulates Stack. He wants to be cool like Stack. Even the hat he's wearing, that wide brimmed hat in the beginning, and he's like jumping over the seat for the car like Stack does, because he wants to be more like him. There's a part where Smoke and Sammy and no, Stack and Sammy are in the car, and Sammy is asking about the car, like, how fast does this drive? And I want to drive it. And Stack is like, you could drive it on the way back. He does in fact drive it on the way back. And so we see this exchange between Mary and Stack. Go to hell. I will, and I'll save you a place right next to me, is what he says to her. So Stack, Delta Slim, Sammy, they get going. They driving down the road. They got to pick up one more person. As they're driving, they come across a chain gang, group of incarcerated men on a chain gang doing some work. They got officers, overseers, kind of telling them what to do. And as Delta Slim and Stack and them are driving past, he tells Stack, slow down a little bit. And he yells out, keep your heads up, and just giving some encouraging words to these men. And the one guy at the end is like, "Hey, Slim," you know. He knew all of those men. They were friends of his. And then he goes on to tell this story about a friend of his and how they were playing music for some white folk, and even though the white folk enjoyed the music, they don't enjoy who the music comes from. We still see that to this day. And how Delta Slim spent his money, I'm just gonna drink. I'm content with this drinking. And his friend was like, I want to do something different. I want to go be a preacher. And he goes to get on a train with his earnings, and he's grabbed off the train by a mob. They lied about where he got that money. They put a charge on him that wasn't anything that he did, because you could just, in those days, you could just say a black man did something. There was no trial, there was no due process, there was no nothing. You could just say that they did something to a white woman and they'll lynch you right on the spot. And that's what they did to Delta Slim's friend. And the way this scene was shot, as Delta Slim is describing what is happening, you're hearing the distant memory. You're hearing them like playing music and laughing. You're hearing his friend try to board this train, the sounds of the train, and then you're hearing the mob come after him and his friend encouraging Delta Slim to get out of here. And then you hear the tightening of the noose and this man choking to death. And the scene gets very quiet. And from what I understand, this part was something that Delroy Lindo did in the moment, where he starts humming to himself, almost like a self soothing. Mm, and we do that a lot. I feel like as Black people, we do that a lot. I feel like people in general, but as Black people, it comes from such a different place. That self soothing in the way of music. And so he starts doing that. He's humming and he's slapping his knee. And Michael B. Jordan's going along with the scene because, he's an actor, um, and he's kind of like encouraging Miles Caton's character. You got that guitar, right? Kind of like, pick up that guitar and pick up the tune that he's got coming out. And you see Miles like hold the guitar and kind of look at him, and then they cut the scene. Beautifully done. So we're already setting up these characters. We're already, and that's what I love about this film is it doesn't get, right to the quote unquote action, so to speak, but we are doing a lot of character building. We are meeting these people and we're understanding their motivations. And so the last person that Stack has to pick up on his journey is Cornbread, played by Omar Miller. Cornbread is exactly what you would imagine a young man nicknamed Cornbread looks like. He is a tall, big guy, just like 6'4", 300-pound guy, right? And he's behind on his quota, and he's picking cotton. He's a sharecropper as well. His wife is out there with him, his very pregnant wife, and they're out there barefoot. That was something I noticed too. I don't know what the significance of that was, because I would imagine, like, wouldn't you like prick your feet on something? I don't know, but Stack goes to get him, and he's talking slick to him. He's like, "Fuck your quota and fuck your wife." And the wife is, but she with it. She's like, "Well, how much money we talking? Like, what's going on? How much you gonna pay him?" And I think about the wife. I wonder if she had to sit there and not only make her quota, but make up for Cornbread's quota as well while he was getting this extra money. So now they have Cornbread.